And we welcome you in, everyone. Steve Lennox, Lennox on Baseball chat, and we welcome in. I've been looking forward to this one, Matt Cleveland. Just to give you a little background, and Matt, I think I've shared with him before, but I go back to the early 2000s, and we're going to start with Matt's pro career in the Royals organization from 2001, 2002. But being in Wilmington in the Carolina League, the Kansas City Royals would kind of give us our own version of a 40-man roster, players to expect that could be there. And I always remembered Matt's name. We actually connected for the first time in 2019 when he was the head coach of Haggerty High School in Florida, and he had two big leaguers, future big leaguers on his team in Riley Greene and Vaughn Grissom. We're going to talk with Matt about that as well. Then we reconnected when he was at Miami in 2000, just before COVID shut everything down. So, Matt, thanks so much for taking a couple of minutes with us here. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And let's start with your pro career. 2001, 2002, Spokane Northwest League, Burlington in the Midwest League in the Royals organization. What do you think about all these years later playing pro ball?
I mean, it was a great opportunity for me. I played at Nova Southeastern. It was kind of so much different back then. So to get to the right school, I was like a kind of a late bloomer. Now I got gray hair. I look old, but at the time I looked like I was 12, graduating high school. So played at a smaller school and did well. And then to get to college, it was kind of, obviously I was a big Miami Hurricanes fan. Their football and baseball teams were unbelievable back then. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. So just had an opportunity to go to Seton Hall, and I got up there, and I couldn't deal with the cold. And to be honest with you, there was a freshman and a sophomore that were much better than me. And it's probably the only thing that I've just like thrown in the red flag in my career. I was like, and Nova had, known about me from my time in Fort Lauderdale. And halfway through my freshman year, I went there, but they had never had anybody sign out of Nova. And my senior year was the first year anybody signed. It was me and two other guys. They got drafted late. We all signed for $1,000. So, back then it was like, just take it and go. I mean, what else was I going to do? I was a senior. And so, I mean, it was exciting, man. There's some great stories from that time, just talking baseball. I mean, my first day I got to Spokane, and George Brett was like a co-owner with his with his brother. And I'm sitting there, and the first day I fly across the country, and we go to sleep late. We have like a team lunch or breakfast at Shoney's, and the first workout for short season, I'm like looking to my right, talking to this Dominican guy who could barely speak English, and trying to connect with him. We ended up becoming good friends, but I turned to the left, and George Brett's got his face like, "You know who I am?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're George Brett." And he's like, "Are you nervous right now?" And I said, yeah, a little bit, and I don't know. He and I kind of struck up a little friendship. I don't know if he'd remember who I was, but he said I looked like Beeve from the Beeve Cleaver show, and everybody in that organization called me Beeve. And as a free agent, you kind of. I played like the first 10 games in Spokane and did pretty well, and then they signed a guy that had more money, and it was kind of like a life lesson for me. Really, the first time I didn't really play my whole career, and just kind of had to learn to find my way. He ended up getting hurt, and I finished that season pretty well. And then we got to the next year, and I was, like you said, I was on the Wilmington roster, which I was surprised when I got to spring training. But you know how it is, you kind of start above, right, and it goes down. And I loved being with those guys. That team had like David DeJesus on the team, Kyle Snyder, Darren Fenster, who's like like one of the greatest baseball guys. He's actually down at Miami now. I saw him this summer at some summer tournaments, and Fenster and DeJesus were my spring training roommates. And so I'm kind of giving you the short version of my whole 2 years, very short pro career. But I mean, spring training was awesome, and that's probably the best defense I've ever played in my life. And I was a really good defender. I would say, like, back then, nobody taught us how to hit. Like, if a guy threw harder, I just thought I got to swing harder, until I got to pro ball, I didn't learn anything about hitting, to be honest with you, completely, very little. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to slight my coaches, but very little. And then when I got there, I just wrote everything down that I learned. I was like, geez, man. But for me, it was kind of too late. I was just kind of going on athletic ability. And hold on one second.
Matt Cleveland, our guest, played pro ball. We're talking about his pro career. We're going to talk about him coaching at Haggerty High School back in 2019.
But it's funny how everything's connected.
Go ahead, Matt.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm in
That's
class,
all right.
technically. So if somebody comes in, I just but I don't have anybody right now, but I might have to take another pause. But so the story is, like, I played great defense, and I was going to be like the utility guy in Wilmington. I was pumped because my whole family's from Philadelphia. And then I made, the 5 days before they posted teams, I made the team. And then Mike Caruso, who's from my town, who was like 2 years prior runner-up for Rookie of the Year and kind of had struggled the last couple of years and been hurt, the Royals traded for him. So I ended up getting sent down to Burlington like the last day of spring training. I hadn't even been with the team. I think I had 1 day with them. So, and then that year was kind of the same thing. There was some, Gotai was a big leaguer on that team, and Brett Groves from Florida State. I didn't play much. It was like once every 8 to 10 games, 1 for 3, then 0 for 3, 1 for 3, then 0 for 3. But great experience. We won, I think we won the wild card or won the second division and got some champagne stuff and just a taste of pro ball. And that manager was awesome, Joe Zeckley.
Yep.
So, I mean, just remembering all those guys, it was a great experience for me. I mean, I would say I got everything I could out of my career, even though it was a short taste. I was a good player. I wasn't a great player. So God blessed me there and gave me some great experiences and allowed me to kind of learn so that I could kind of do what I do now. So
did you go to spring training in 2003?
No, I got released after that year. I mean, dude, I was 23 years old in in A-ball, and I hit like 188. So, it is what it is. And then I went to I had a tryout. I did a camp with like Buddy Biancalana, who was a Phillies. I don't know if he was a scout or a short season manager. And I crushed the tryout, and he looked at me and he was like, "Look, I could invite you to spring training, but you're going to end up in the same, even if you make a team, which is hard as a non-roster." He's like, if you make a team, you're going to end up in the same situation you were. He's like, your best bet is to like go to independent ball or go overseas and try to put up some numbers. Cause I really hadn't played the whole 2 years. I didn't really play consistently,
right.
He's like, you're a really good player, but you're old. And I was like, I know. I mean, so, I kind of had it set up I was going to go to Italy and just try to experience life. And there was like a league where you played 4 games a week and they gave you a house and a car. And some of that stuff was in the works. And then I was actually coaching middle school basketball at a K-12 school, Coral Springs Christian. My high school basketball coach, who I just saw last night, came watch us take an L last night, had me coaching his middle school team. And the coach left halfway through that year in 2003. And it was in the works for me to go maybe overseas. And I was like, I interviewed for the job and got it. So I was 2003 in February, I was a head high school coach. I've never been an assistant except the year I was at Miami, never in high school. So that's kind of how it started.
So Riley Greene last night helps us out because we'll transition into that of 2019 is when we first met down in Cary, North Carolina, when you were there for the NHSI, and there was terrific talent. So I thought about you last week when Jack Leiter made his big league debut, that Del Barton team that was there in 2019 in Cary, the USA Baseball Complex had Volpe and Leiter. You, from that year, 2019, Riley Greene, 2 home runs last night in the victory for the Tigers at Tropicana Field, and Vaughn Grissom, who in the coming days is going to make his Red Sox debut after being traded in the offseason. Tell us your approach from that year and what kind of relationship, what kind of ties you have to them present day.
It was my 3rd year with them. I had moved to Central Florida, and Jared Goodwin, who's now like the national scouting director for Perfect Game, left to go coach at FIU, and kind of had a connection at Haggerty. I had been at a smaller school for 2 years, and honestly, I was ready to try the bigger schools because there's challenges at both of them, and it had been 14 years with something different. And so I got the job in 17. They were both sophomores, and them and the catcher were the only sophomores that played on that team. And if you play at a school like Haggerty or where I'm at Spruce Creek, if you play as a sophomore, you're probably going to be high-level Division I kid or a pro. So, you know, they were both younger. Riley was ranked the best hitter in his class, you know, all 3 years. He was the guy. Vaughn was more of a, you know, super talented, like kind of had to, he would tell you this, like he had to kind of grow up a little bit. You know, I kind of stayed on him. Like we butted heads a good amount the first couple years. And, but man, I'll tell you, I'm really close with both of them. And Vaughn is like, you know, I'm so proud of that kid, man. He is, we kind of got on the same page toward the end of his junior year. And it wasn't anything different than most high school stuff, but you know, like he was just so good, you know, and some guys, I don't know if some guys that coach, like, I don't care who you are, you know, like you're going to do what I believe is right for the team and for yourself. And, you got to coach everybody the same. It doesn't matter how good they are. And so, I mean, we just kind of stayed on him, and I knew he'd come along. I've always, he's such a funny, they're total opposites. Like he's a super, like quiet, Riley's a super quiet kid, and Vaughn is like a knot. He's like me. Hold on one sec. This is my pause.
Go ahead. Matt Cleveland joining us here on our Lennox on Baseball chat. Glad you're with us. You can follow us on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at Lennox on Baseball. Matt has talked about his pro career, his 2 years in the Royals organization in 2001, 2002, and now talking about coaching Riley Greene and Vaughn Grissom, big leaguers, 3 years, their senior years in 2019, both drafted in the first round. But continue what you were mentioning about.
So what I was saying is like they're total opposite personalities. Like Vaughn is like super outgoing, joking, one of the funniest dudes I've ever been around. And then Riley was just like the quiet, like reserved, you know, just good leader and just first guy to pick up the tarp, tell everybody to do stuff. And so, I mean, it was fun coaching them, man. And, you know, it was a little different. Riley, when he was a sophomore, Riley in BP, honestly, Vaughn, like everything was a backspin line drive everywhere. And Riley had to learn how to like kind of harness his power. But in games, like he was a freak, man. Like when guys actually pitched to him in high school, I tell people this story all the time. You know, he got pitched around a lot, and high school coaches are calling, or high school umpires are calling balls like in the right-handed batter's box. High school umpires are terrible sometimes, man. Like, so, I mean, he still had great years, but like in fall games, right, they don't care who wins, or in the preseason. I would say we played 6 preseason games in the 3 years. Like in Florida, we have 2 preseason games that don't count. So they pitch to him, right? And then in maybe, let's just say like 25 games between the falls and the preseason, I think he hit like 18 home runs. Like, you know, it was unbelievable. Like the game hitting, the reaction of him to anybody else I've ever seen. I mean, even as a sophomore, like the sound was ridiculous. So Vaughn was like a little weaker and like skinnier. Now he's bigger than Riley, or as big. And he grew into himself, and he really popped his senior year. Like his BP just turned into the backspin line drives turned into like just, you know, bombs and beautiful, like backspin, like in the gap. And so it was 2 totally different like trajectories for those guys, man. Like, and it's so cool. Like 2 summers ago when they both made their debut, that's like one of the coolest thing, probably the coolest thing I've ever experienced as a coach. It was like within a month. Riley was hurt, and then he came up. And Vaughn, you know, a cool story about him is like we were sitting in a meeting where we're trying to make some adjustments with him. And I just told him, I said, look, man, like it doesn't have to just be Riley on this team. Like, you're a big leaguer. You know, I've coached big leaguers. I've coached a lot of really good players. You're like in the top 5 players I've ever played. I'm like, you know, I think you need to see that in yourself. And he and I kind of go back to that a lot. And so all through the minor leagues, like he gets drafted in the 11th round. Like 11th rounders don't make it to the big leagues in 3 years. You know, like that doesn't happen very often. The only way it happens is to go and just be the best player on every team, which he's done. And so every step of the way, I would just text him, "You're a big leaguer. You're a big leaguer." And, you know, and he said, I remember that conversation. So when he called me, I was like, I got chills. I actually didn't even get the call. I was golfing. And I missed both calls. And he's like, I'm on a plane. And I'm like, what? So it was cool. That was like a great summer for me, man. And it's just cool watching them now. I talked to them both. One's more introverted, like I said. So he, I'll catch him when I can, and I'll text them, and I text all my former players something every morning. So I don't know, man. It's the best thing about coaching is watching them succeed.
Did you get to their big league debuts?
No, I mean, Riley's, we knew it was coming, but it was like, I'm a high school coach, so like,
yep.
We have me and my staff make money off of doing summer camps, like, so that we can support our families. And so I didn't get to his because I think it was during a summer camp. And then Vaughn's was like out of left field. Like I said, I literally was on the golf course. He calls me and says, I'm on a plane. And then another guy that played for us that plays at West Florida now, went to Jacksonville, and he plays at West Florida, who's one of their good teammates, Jackson Gravsky. Once I went to Miami, I moved back. I'm like 50 minutes from Oviedo now, near the beach. And one of them was like, hey, we're going to all watch the game at the Ale House. So I went over there with all of his former players and the coaches that coach with me, the coach that's at Haggerty now. It's a really cool town. And when he went yard in Fenway, we were all there. I mean, I had the video, like the place went crazy. So there was like 50 people there. So I didn't see it in person, but it was definitely a cool experience. And I got up to see both of them later that summer. So
great stuff. 21 years as a head coach at different high schools in the state of Florida. As those guys are coming through, you mentioned sophomore, junior, senior years. What's your role in terms of, dealing with pro scouts, dealing with the colleges, dealing with the family? How did that all sort of come together for you guys?
As far as those guys?
Yeah, and just overall, your players. I mean, you've had 80 guys from your programs who have gone on to play college baseball. What's your role? How has your role evolved over the years, dealing with both sides? As you mentioned, a kid who is playing for you as a sophomore and even in the state of Florida, those guys are getting looks.
Yeah, man. I mean, that is I could talk about that for an hour. Let's see, how do I approach this? As far as the college stuff, because of travel ball, the dudes are easy, like the guys that are really good. I don't have to really work for them, if you want me to be honest. I take the call. I call people. I'll say, hey, he's going to be in Georgia. That's like the gist of it for me. I can't take credit for a lot of those guys. Like those guys that are going to, like we got a kid that's going to Duke. I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with a couple. Or my team now is like Duke, 2 Stetson commits, and a Pitt commit. And we just had a kid commit to FAU. And like for instance, the FAU kid, he's a junior. It's like 85, 87 right now, and he can really pitch. So, like, he's not – because it's not 90, 92, it's not the bigger schools. If it was, it would be because he can really pitch. So, like, between his travel coach and the owner of, the Orlando Scorpions and myself, we made a couple calls, hey, and then it's just – they're like, when's he pitching again? Here it is. And then all of a sudden it was a call from them, hey, we want him to take a visit. And they offered him, and I said, for you, I think it's the perfect place. So it's just really just giving advice and trying to set them up. The harder ones are the guys that because if you play at a place like Spruce Creek or Haggerty and you start, you can play college baseball. I mean, it's really high level high school baseball. And there's a couple seniors now that we're working pretty hard for, like daily calling guys, junior colleges, all that stuff. So I've had guys leave here and go to, a junior college and then go to South Alabama. Some of the guys, how college is right now. Some of the guys went to Florida State, are at a junior college now. So it's just kind of a moving target. As far as the pro stuff, I remember Alex Mesa, who actually was a scout for the Royals. I think he still might be. He asked me in 2013 when I had Tucson. He's like, are you ready for this? And I had like college guys, and I had a couple guys that made it to the big leagues but weren't like huge prospects. And like Matt Dendecker played for me the first year. He's still a good friend of mine. Okay. He played in the big leagues for like 6 years. He ended up leaving the high school because he played for me in 2003, and he went to Westminster academy, which Rich Hoffman had one of the best teams in the country. I got that. It was fine. I was just starting, but like I had never been around like like I didn't know what I was getting into then. If you want me to be honest, and it was my 10th year coaching or 11th year, and I said, yeah, it'll be fun, and he was like, "You're not ready," and I laughed at him like, "This guy." But he was right. I mean, there's a lot that goes into these guys. I've had two guys, him and Riley, and when they get to the end of their junior year or the middle of their junior year, and then that next 9 months just to get them to the high school season is hard. Everybody, there's so many events, there's a lot of pressure, and it's just so busy. They don't really have time to be kids. I remember riding on the golf cart with almost the same statement from both of the kids. Just like, man, like I just want to get to October so I can like be 17, and my message was, I get that, but there's probably 100,000 kids in the country that would trade places with you, so it is a challenge. And we have a guy like that now who's a junior, who's going to be seriously considered as a pro next year. And they all have work to do. They all got to get better. But just this year, after going through it with those guys, this year is like was a little easier. 'Cause I could kind of explain to him, like, man, this is what we're getting into. And they all have guys like that have advisors who are technically agents, but they're really advisors because they can't get paid until the kid gets paid. And so it's a lot of stuff that I never knew happened when I first started coaching. And it's been an education, but I'd say you just learn and, try to help the kid. I'm just doing this for the kids, man. Like, I like to see kids succeed. That's what makes my heart happy. So that's kind of the way I approach it,
You mentioned ties to Philadelphia. You mentioned Seton Hall earlier, and being a Northeast guy, always, you hear Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, baseball 12 months out of the year. As a high school coach, how much time do you actually have? Once that high school season ends for you, do you not see them again until they get back on campus in the fall?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, like we have a 6-week program for our incoming freshmen here. I try to run this as much one in Florida, it's so competitive. I mean, it's just a hard go, especially if you schedule the right teams. And I just try to schedule the hardest schedule I possibly can every year. Like there's a ranking system and people are trying to figure it out now. And I'm just like, dude, my goal is, I always tell my parents, like, our goal is to is to get your kid ready to play at the next level, whatever level his talent takes him to. If he's pro, he goes and he's ready to play as a pro. If he's a Division II kid, he knows the game and he's going to go there and play. I want the coach to call me and say, hey, this kid knows baseball. He's mature. If we do that, we'll win. That's the way I say it. So we do a lot here. I would say we do a lot more than I ever thought it was when I started. But besides the incoming freshmen, which we have a 6-week program for them, and they're all playing travel ball in the summer too. So we're just like, hey, whenever you're here, you need to be here, and they sign up for it. And it's good to get them kind of indoctrinated into what we do. But no, I don't see them much in the summer, and it's fine. They need a break. I mean, they need a break from us. We work hard, and, they go and they travel around with their parents and their friends from other schools, and they play great baseball. So, and I coached travel ball for a long time. I coached some really good players in travel ball, and so it's a kind of it's just a different everything in travel ball. Like you don't really get practice time. You can't, you can only teach them so much. You don't know the kids, you don't have like a culture per se. But it's still really fun because it's baseball. So no, we don't see them much in the summer. They come back in the fall. It's Hades hot down here in August, and we go 2 months of baseball and 16 weeks of lifting. We lift the whole fall. And I tell them in November and December, just take a break. You need it, and especially the arms, And so essentially have a rule that unless you're an uncommitted senior, you shouldn't be throwing in November and December if you're a position player. And the pitchers, we start like third week in December because our high school season starts the third week in January practice. So
when you have conversations, when you hear other people trying to be perhaps experts and out of their lane, we hear stay in your lane all the time. When it comes to pitching and injuries present day, what do your conversations entail? What needs to be talked about more in terms of keeping arms healthy?
Dude, I don't know. Honest to God, like I couldn't give you the answer for that. All I know is that if a kid gets hurt in my program, it can't be because he's not prepared or we haven't been taking care of him. You know, like for instance, like our guys, like I said, our pitchers start throwing in the third week in December. It's a high school program. This is the truth. Like it's all organized. I send them what they're gonna do. Our pitching guy has them start doing stuff. The position players have a different program. And then we start the third week in January so that they can throw a bullpen that week. And they have already thrown a bullpen the week before on their own because Florida gives us like 3 weeks of arm care. And then the second week of practice, they all throw an inning. The third week of practice, they all throw 2 innings in an air squad. The fourth week is the preseason week. So they're up to 3 innings. And if they don't throw in that game, they throw 3 innings in an inter squad. And then our goal is to have them ready, for 4 innings. And it's really not innings, it's pitches. It's like 55 to 60 pitches the first week of the regular season. And they never go more than that. And then the next week, if you feel good and you recover well and you're one of our guys, then you can go 70 to 75. And then hopefully by the third week of the regular season, you're 85, 90. And then that's pretty much where we try to keep it, unless, very rarely do we go over like the 90 pitch-ish threshold with our guys. Some of them can throw 105. We had one kid go 102 this year. And like in our dugout, we were like seriously discussing, like, should we do this? And he felt fine and he's recovered fine. And it was like the 9th week of the season, but that's how much we care for them. I don't know what the answer to that is. There's so much that goes into that question because I played baseball all year, but I also played other sports and took a break.
Right.
And, and I wasn't a pitcher, so I think that a lot of it is the kids are playing way more and they're also developing real quick. Like they get in the weight room, they're doing all these, like this training that is great, which makes the game better and tougher on everybody. But I don't know if some of the bodies aren't ready for that yet. And I just think that it's a combination of so many things. And then there are guys that are just idiots, if you want me to be honest with you, and they don't understand how to take care of kids, and they also don't care. They want to win. Winning takes precedent, which it doesn't at our program. And I get that, man. I mean, if you got to take care of the kid first, but a lot of people are just only have 1 or 2 arms. I've been blessed. Like here, I can put 15 guys that can throw, 80 to 85, maybe 90, and they can all throw strikes for the most part. And if they don't, we just take them out, which can keep us competitive. Not every school has that, so there's so much that goes into that question, but I think if somebody had the answer to that, then guys would stop getting hurt,
Right.
So
yeah. Is there a narrative though that when you take in, when you hear it on the national stage, or you read it or hear it or watch it, that you'd want to see eliminated, just of, somebody that might be adamant to say it's this one particular thing that's leading to all these injuries?
I'm gonna give a shout out to my guy Felipe Suarez, who owns a travel organization in South Florida, and the X team, and he's an old friend of mine. He played with me at Nova. He's a guy that trains a lot of the pitchers down there. And one thing we say to our guys is, like, every arm has a certain amount of throws. Yeah. And so don't waste your throws. Keep it efficient, work on something, and don't just be, for lack of a better term, dicking around out there throwing baseballs. And I agree with him from what I've seen wholeheartedly. You got guys that can do all it's so individualized because there's guys that can throw all day, every day, throw 90 pitches, then they want a long toss. There's other guys that take 2 days to recover. You don't know which one of those guys is going to get hurt. It's just I don't think there's one thing right now. I mean, some people point to the weighted balls. I actually had Tom House's East Coast guy come down in 14 and run us through all the stuff about the holds and all when it just started. Like we were ahead of the curve. And the one thing that stuck out to me that he said was they shouldn't do this if they're not men, like man strength. But who's the judge, like what man strength is? Like I know for me, I looked like a man, I looked like a baby face, but like I was strong and I looked built at 17 and 18. But all of a sudden at like 2021, balls just started flying. My arm was better. I think a lot of kids don't really get that man strength right away. And I think we're rushing it a little, but I don't think that's the one thing. I just think there's a lot of things. Hold on one sec. Hey, Trent, get that door for me. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. I enjoy the conversation. A lot of different and your honesty with a lot of this, and you've certainly got that experience. Just one thing on the travel ball front, because you've coached at that level too, and we've touched on a little bit.
Sorry. All right.
Firm handshake.
Yeah, I'm working too. Okay, I'll give it to him. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
On the travel ball world, where do you stand right now in terms of how there's positives and, and some people have a real negative view of it?
I mean, it just goes, it's like, I don't dislike it. I think it's in some ways Perfect Game is genius in what they've done. College coaches don't have to recruit during the season much anymore. I mean, they still do, but not as much. And so what a business model that was 20 years ago. Wish I would have thought of that. I wouldn't be sitting in this 1970s portable right now. But I think that it's definitely watered down, if you want me to be honest, from the youth level all the way up. There's guys playing travel baseball, that will never even play at their high schools.
Right.
But at least they're playing. Like some of these kids, like there's guys for me that are good baseball players that right now, to be honest, like are probably looking forward to the summer because they're going to get to play, so it's a game, like all these people that take this so seriously, like, well, travel baseball used to be only the best players. Okay, well, people are willing to let their kids play. Does it maybe give them a false sense of, hey, I played travel ball, so I'm going to play in college? Maybe. Who cares? At some point, reality is going to come, and the kids are enjoying themselves playing baseball right now. So, I coached for FTB, and George Gonzalez was the owner, and that guy was nothing but great to me. I started kind of the first year I had the second or third team in an age group, and we did well. And just like any guy in business, he gave me an opportunity with another good group of kids. And then I just kept getting like a little bit of the better team, which I thought is how it should go. You got to earn your keep. I think maybe myself and the assistant proved that we could win and help kids get better and help them get to the next level. And so, my third and fourth year there and fifth year, we had ridiculously good baseball players. So at that level, it's really good baseball. I could throw you the names that we've coached against. It's unbelievable. But it's still baseball. Like it's not fair. It doesn't always work out the way you think. You can barrel a bunch of baseballs at guys. So, but it was really good. Like for me to get the relationships. Like I remember a statement was made like, you're talking to Elijah Green about how to hit with 2 strikes. He's Elijah Green. And I'm like, so what? Like, he's 15, 16 years old. Like he needs to learn. God gave him all this talent, but you're just going to sit there and like kiss his butt. Like, no. And it wasn't Elijah. He was like the greatest, one of the easiest kids I've ever coached. He listened to everything. He always had a smile on his face. But it's just the perception of these. I think the biggest problem isn't the the fact that there's travel ball and a lot of travel ball. I think the biggest problem is like the amount of media that kind of kisses kids' butts, and that has nothing to do with winning. If you want me to be completely honest, like I don't care how hard a kid can hit a ball off a tee. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make him a winner. Or the only people that play in this game are the people that get the job done. You know, like I want to know, like if I was recruiting in college, I would be like calling the guys at the highest level of high school and saying, who do you hate playing against? You know, who do you hate? Who is just a dog? Like there's not enough dogs anymore. That's my opinion. Like it's just the whole commitment process has gotten better now. I mean, it was a joke, a complete joke before when 8th graders were committing. I mean, it almost meant nothing. So I'm glad the NCAA did that, but I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that too. I mean, I can talk baseball all day, but travel baseball is I don't think there's a problem with travel baseball, if you want me to be honest with you. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of not great people, I guess. I don't know. I haven't run into too many of them. I've made a lot of friends from travel baseball, coaching against guys, coaching, people complain about the people that aren't good. All right, well then move on. Don't complain about it and bitch about it. Just go find somebody, just like any other part of life, So I think it's good. I think the media is the part that overblows the kid. It makes coaching a little harder, but it is what it is. You just keep coaching,
A lot of your themes speaking over this 30 minutes plus, and I appreciate you doing this, has been about relationships. And I do appreciate you always being available to me. Looking forward to seeing more of your success. You finished the email the other day with, "It's been a fun ride." Well, the ride continues. Wish you all the best with the remainder of this season. And I appreciate you letting me check in on you every once in a while as well.
Yeah, man, anytime. I love talking baseball, and it's been a fun ride. I'm blessed to do what I love to do for a living, and it's good to come to work even after a loss like last night and have fun and find a way to win. So I appreciate it, Steve. Have a great one, man, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Matt, thanks so much. Enjoy the day.
All right, you too.
Great stuff from Matt Cleveland. Again, just meeting him all those years later, it's just a name that always stuck in my mind. And he threw some names out there in the beginning of the conversation about his 2 years in Spokane and Burlington in the Northwest League and in the Midwest League in the Kansas City Royals organization, the Ruben Gotais, David DeJesus, Darren Fenster. We will have Darren on at some point in the future, but all those guys he mentioned ended up making it to Wilmington, and guys I know to this day. But Matt, again, seeing him for the first time in 2019, seeing him again in 2020 when he was at Miami as an assistant and their infield guy before COVID shut down everything at that point in time, and then ended up back 4 years now at Spruce Creek that he alluded to with that high school. And he's got 5 Division I prospects right now on that team. He shared a lot of great stuff. We went a lot of different directions, and appreciate you being with us here on our Lenox on Baseball chat. That's going to wrap it up for us. Earlier today, we did our Day 27 recaps of the Major League Baseball regular season. We'll have Day 28 either later tonight or on Thursday morning as well. Again, we appreciate the support with everything that we're continuing to build with our Lenox on Baseball live stream. Follow us on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at Lenox on Baseball. Our YouTube channel is up. These interviews will also be available in the audio version on Spotify, working with Apple and trying to put that up there as well. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody.